Tikva.
Hi, Tikva.
Hi.
You're kind of sideways, Tikva.
Am I?
I don't know how you did that, but yeah. Okay, that's better.
It's my tablet, so I didn't know which way would work better.
Hello, Tikva ma'am. How are you?
Hi. Everybody have pencil and paper?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good idea.
All right. Good job. We are prepared to learn. Thank you, Davera.
You're welcome. Little challenging, especially the whole technology thing for me is
We know. I fully aware of technological difficulties.
so they're gonna help me move along with the slides, at least in the beginning, the first half.
We'll wait till 7:32 or something, and then you can start the intro. Then maybe around 7:35 she can start presenting. I'll post it in all the groups that the meeting room is open.
I know it's also a holiday weekend, a long weekend for some people.
For some people, some of us not.
Right.
Hi, Davera, and hi, Marilyn.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi,
Very
Marilyn.
good.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Vivian. I don't think we've ever met.
No, I've only heard lots about you. Amazing things. Hi, Tikva.
Hi. Yeah, I live in the Galil.
I also do. I live in Tivon. Where do you live?
Oh,
nice.
Malo.
I'm my Lord. Oh, it's not too far.
Just about an hour.
Not too far.
And Marilyn's here from Toronto.
Yeah, we should do a get together.
How? Come.
We should meet in Tel Aviv.
I would love to. Next time I'm there. I'm thinking anywhere between March and May.
Sounds
Super.
good.
Yeah. God willing. You know what? I was up a whole night and I happened on this song, Jerusalema. I don't know if you remember it, but it was very popular in like 2020. So just at the beginning of COVID. And it was written by South African. And of course, it was about Jerusalem. You are my heart. You are my home. Protect me, protect us. And just a beautiful song. And when I hear it, and I've heard it over the years, I didn't really connect it. So last night I was lying there watching it in all the different countries, and people were dancing to it. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful written song that people dance to all over the world. And I was thinking that's exactly what we need. We need for everybody to be dancing for us, right? With this beautiful song. Did anybody remember it? No. Okay, I will send it. I will send you a link.
Okay, thank
You
you.
A lot
probably
has
have heard, you
happened.
probably saw it or heard it, but
A
it
lot
was
has
COVID.
happened in the last few years.
Yeah. Made me want to jump out of bed and dance, but too tired. Okay, I'm going to go grab something because it's early for me. When are you starting, Davera?
I believe in like a minute
Okay.
or so, yeah.
Be back.
Okay, Surya. We will start now.
Mary, you lost your video.
Thank you very much.
சரி குரு நீ கிளம்பு நான்
Thank you very much.
இது பண்ணிட்டு நான் போறேன்
Um,
நீ ஆமா
I hear
அப்போ
some voices, if you can just mute. Okay.
இது ஒன் வே அது இப்படி எடுத்து அது அந்த லேட்டர் ரோடுக்குள்ள போயிட்டு
Okay.
சாரி
Perfect. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you for asking me to explain what I know about the polarity analysis. Um, now, I don't have as much experience as many of you, that are practicing for many, many years. But the reason why I believe I have such a high success rate is not because I'm smarter than anyone or I have my own technique of doing things. Not at all. I follow exactly what Hahnemann wrote in the Organon and then later on in the chronic diseases, and how Bönninghausen put together the first repertory. And I just simply follow that. And I don't go left and I don't go right. I just follow what they say, and the success is quite high for someone who's pretty new to homeopathy. So before we dive into polarity analysis, we need to understand the history behind it and why the polarity analysis is such a great repertory for all homeopaths to use. So let's begin with the first slide that was just on. And we're all familiar with Samuel Hahnemann's writings. It's very long-winded. And Bönninghausen is the opposite. He's very abrupt and very straight to the point. And probably we can say that both of them are, quite boring. So reading it is not easy. It's pretty difficult to read. So a lot of homeopaths like to go to the newer repertories, the newer materia medica. It's more interesting. But it's important for us to really stick to what Hahnemann has given to us as a gift of how to practice properly. Okay, so let's get into it. Hahnemann created the first index in 1805, and as we know, it's called the Fragmenta. But this was just a raw list of observations, and it lacked a searchable structure, and there was no logical hierarchy. It was just an alphabetical order. Hahnemann he wrote letters to Bönninghausen, urging him to create a repertory. And the reason why he wanted him to create this repertory is because we know that Bönninghausen was a lawyer, he was a botanist, and he just had that right mind to create a repertory. Okay, so, and the word repertory, by the way, was first used by Hahnemann. It was never seen before. He wrote it in a letter to Bönninghausen to create not just a list, but a repertory. So let's move on to the next slide. And if we can move on to the next slide. Okay. So the next slide is we're going to compare the first repertory to the therapeutic pocketbook, which is what the polarity analysis is based on. So Bönninghausen was very happy to create this repertory, and he created in 1832 the SRA, and in 1835 the SRN, and these are the systematic alphabetical repertories. The SRA was or is a list of antipsoric remedies separate, and then there's the SRN, which is a list of non-antipsoric remedies, or the regular class of medicines. The problem is this model recorded literal strings of symptoms exactly as they appeared in the provings. So Hahnemann encouraged Bönninghausen to take these two volumes, the SRA and the SRN, and to combine it into one. And this became known as the TFR, the Total Functional Repertory, also known as the first repertory, first one we've ever actually had. And Bönninghausen began to publish it, and halfway through, he realized that it's not going to work. It's not going to work for two reasons. One, he wanted something, it grew too large. It grew too large, it was enormous, and he didn't even finish printing it. It was only halfway through. And the second reason is that he wanted something simple that he can, by the bedside of a sick patient, that he can quickly look at different rubrics and be able to prescribe accurately. So this is the reason. This is the whole reason why we also use the polarity analysis, because it's simple and it's very accurate. Let's move on to slide number 3. So in 1846, Bönninghausen abandoned the TFR model, and he created the therapeutic pocketbook. And the difference was, well, one of the things that he mostly focused on was to make sure to go through all the provings and only to have the primary effects of the drugs and no secondary effects of the medicines. Now, this is very important to keep in mind, because other repertories that are used today have a mix of both. Okay, and we see this in aphorism 8, where Hahnemann explains how important it is to have just the effects of the proving of the medicines themselves. And this is what Bönninghausen made sure to do. At the same time, Jahr was actually also working on the repertory, and Hahnemann did ask him to work on it. but he was very displeased. He was very displeased with his work. Hahnemann called Yar's work a misfortune because he indiscriminately mixed proving symptoms with clinical cures without distinction. We didn't know what was what. So let's move on to the next slide here. So here, this is the key to understanding Bönninghausen's method as well as the polarity analysis. So central to the therapeutic pocketbook is the abstracting symptoms from their original position within the provings, such as removing modalities from the specific regions in which they originally appeared and placing them with a stand-alone chapter. It allows the user to complete symptoms and reconstruct the remedy picture. I'll explain more. Extracting a modality from one location and applying it to the entire genius of the remedy to recombine these deconstructed parts to fit the unique new variety of diseases presented by the patient, because every patient has, is an individual and they have different kinds of symptoms. Not everybody's going to have a stabbing pain in the left knee. They may have a stabbing pain in the right arm, okay? So we're able to mix and match. This grouping of elements was often misunderstood as generalizing by those who inadequately studied Bönninghausen's work. So it's not about generalizing, it's about combining, taking apart, putting back together. It allows the user to complete symptoms by analogy, whereby the application of our often imperfect materia medica, because of course none of them are perfect, is extended via this recombination. This unique feature of the therapeutic pocketbook not only greatly increases its scope, meaning to cases with symptoms combinations never seen before in the provings. So if we look at the proving, we're not going to see every single possible case that ever happened. And this recombination, we will now be able to cure patients with symptoms that we do not see directly in the provings. And it also allows for a real condensation of information into a much smaller volume. Remember, we said that those books were too large. It was impossible to publish so much and keep it at the bedside and look through it to help patients. And also we did not lose any of the meaning when we condensed. So this is very important. All the meaning, it's all condensed. That's why there's so few rubrics in the polarity analysis. So let me give you an example. If we have somebody who has a headache and they feel better in open air, we can take this and apply it to the genius of the remedy. So someone else who doesn't have a headache but has difficulty breathing or they have a toothache, whatever it is, when they're in open air, they feel better, right? So most of us right away think of probably pulsatilla. So we can recombine and rearrange and recreate and treat somebody with pulsatilla, even though we don't see it directly in the proving exactly in that way. Okay, so another example is if a patient has a headache and it's worse in the morning and a knee pain also worse in the morning, they have both that it's worse in the morning, then we take this worse in the morning modality, because modalities are key to Bönninghausen's method and to polarity analysis, of course. So we take this worse in the morning modality and we treat it as a general characteristic of the patient's overall condition, even if that specific modality was not recorded in the materia medica for knee pain. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So the problem is that most of the, or if not all, subsequent repertories, including those of Herring and Lippe, followed the SRA. They followed this path because it felt safe to use the prover's literal words. And we do not use that when we look in the proving, when we use the polarity analysis. So this was found to be a very rigid way of finding a remedy. So if a patient described the symptoms slightly different than a prover, the remedy was considered missing from that rubric. And this continued, you know, Yar, had published his handbook in 1834, but his handbook was modeled on the SRA and not the therapeutic pocketbook. Plus it was less accurate. And this had continued from Yar, it moved on and on to other more modern homeopaths. So James Tyler Kent, he did not know how to read German, and he was forced to rely on these flawed translations of Yar's work. And a side note, Kent also used a lot of psychology, and he brought in his Swedenborg religious beliefs into homeopathy, so that also changed the way of looking at a case and prescribing a remedy. And even major figures like Bozier and Farrington, they didn't fully grasp Bönninghausen's method, which allowed the flawed TFR, remember that's the first repertory model, to persist as the industry standard. This became our standard. That's what most homeopaths are using today. So this results in repertories being overloaded with divergent grading and clinical noise, moving us further away from the pure sickness of the original provings. Remember in Aphorism 108, Hahnemann says we have to stick to the original, to the symptoms that are caused within the provings. So Yar published the second edition to the handbook in 1835, and then it was translated to English by Constantine Herring, and he published it in 1838 as the first English language repertory. The problem is, it is not the first English language repertory because the transliteration is incorrect. It's on Yar's understanding of the SRA, not the therapeutic pocketbook. And then this goes on to Herring, and then to Lippe, and to Lee, and finally it gets to Kent. So we see that there's a lot of misunderstandings. If someone is to look at any one of these repertories as to look inside the provings also, I would suggest that Timothy Field Allen's is the closest to Bönninghausen, but even so, he also added his own grading system, and he also added his own symptoms. So it's not very accurate, but it is the most accurate of even Herring and Kent and the others. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Yes, so here we're going to speak about symptoms and what is a complete symptom. So a lot of homeopaths will take a case, and all the symptoms from before the person was born till today, every symptom they throw into the repertory. this is not how we take a case. This is not helpful to find the right remedy. There is a way we take only the facts. And if something is not a fact, you can just leave it like in the back of your head or as a side note, remember it, but do not take it as a rubric. So what is a complete symptom? A symptom consists of 3 essential components. It's the nature, what it is, the location, where it is, and the modalities, how it's influenced or modified. Then, of course, there's the concomitants, and the concomitants are separate symptoms. It's a separate, let's call it a disease, a disorder, a complaint. It's separate than the main complaint, and it probably has its own location, sensation, and modalities. So we need to have all these in order to have a complete symptom and to use it as rubrics. And we see this in aphorism 86, and it reads as such. When the narrators have finished what they would say of their own accord, the physician then reverts to each particular symptom and elicits more precise information respecting it in the following manner. He reads over the symptoms as they were related to him one by one, and about each of them he inquires for further particulars. For example, at what period did this symptom occur? Was it previous to taking the medicine he had hitherto been using while taking the medicine, or only some days after leaving off the medicine? What kind of pain? What sensation exactly? What is that occurred on this spot? Where was the precise spot? Did the pain occur in fits and by itself at various times, or was it continued without intermission? How long did it last? At what time of the day or night? And in what position of the body was it worse or ceased entirely? What was the exact nature of this or that event or circumstance mentioned, described in plain words? He also continues in aphorism 133 to discuss this. I don't think I'm going to read that right now. We're going to move on. And I want to discuss how taking the modalities, the location, the sensation, how important it is. And notice I didn't mention the mind. Okay, and it's not that the mind is not important. The mind, especially when using the polarity analysis, and not just the polarity analysis, but according to Hahnemann himself, the mind actually tips the scales. Meaning you have a bunch of remedies in front of you. It can be sulfur, it could be sepia, it could be pulsatilla, and you're not quite sure, and you look through, of course, the in the provings, the original provings, and maybe you're still not clear. So the mind symptoms tip the scales. That helps you choose the right remedy. We do not focus on mind symptoms alone. We want the facts. Also, Hahnemann, if you know that in Materia Medica Pura, where it's the non-antipsoric remedies, there the schema, you have the mind at the end. It begins with head, and then the face, and then it goes down the body, and then the mind at the end. And in the chronic diseases, Hahnemann changed the schema where the mind is first, and then the head and so forth going down the body. And that is to explain to us that the mind is very important, but it's to tip the scales. It is not the reason to choose a remedy, meaning do not ignore the facts. Take the whole case. Totality of symptoms doesn't mean every single symptom the person ever felt in their life. only those that qualify. You want symptoms that qualify, that we know what make, modalities and everything else. Okay. Let's see what I have here, what else I have here. Okay, I think that's kind of says it all. Let's move on to the next slide. Thank you. So now Bönninghausen created a grading system, and it's based directly from Hahnemann's organon to indicate the reliability and verification of a symptom. We all know how Hahnemann says to underline and then the double underline, right? So Bönninghausen did not create his own system. He studied exactly what Hahnemann said. Like I said, he was his best student. He actually had the most busy practice in all of Europe. So in the original provings, we'll see bracketed symptoms. And Hahnemann says that these are symptoms that he was uncertain of, or he was doubtful, and they were not verified. He just wasn't clear about them. Maybe the person ate something and that day they didn't feel well. It wasn't consistent, so he kept it in brackets. That is not included in the repertory. Then there's grade 1, and these are observed in very few provings, sometimes even just one prover, sometimes 2. Grade 2, it's observed in more or many provings. And grade 3, it's verified through clinical practice. So what he did was he upgraded. Bönninghausen, from his own clinical experience, upgraded the grading system according to his own clinical experience. And like I said, he was the busiest homeopath in all of Europe. So he had a lot of cases that he worked on, and Hahnemann approved of everything that he did. Everything, mostly. Actually, Bönninghausen wanted to include belladonna as an antipsoric, and Hahnemann did not agree, and it remained as a non-antipsoric. Anyway, so there's grade 3, and then there's grade 4, and these are frequently confirmed, and this is expressed as the genius of the remedy, just like we were talking about pulsatilla before, better from open air. That's many times considered, part of the genius of the remedy. Now, in the polarity analysis, there is a grade 5, and that was added. Dr. Fry worked with his teacher, Gypser, his name was Gypser, and they decided to add grade 5, and they used it mostly, it helps, they use it with the checklists for children that have ADD, ADHD. When I see a 5, I personally just view it as a number 4. I don't give it much more, and 4 is a high grading, so it's fine. So basically, in summary, the therapeutic pocketbook was the first repertory that had graded remedies and provided a structured way to match symptoms, moving beyond simple alphabetical listings. So we are going to move on now to the next screen. Okay. So here we're going to get into the polarity analysis here. So the polarity analysis is the modern mathematical application of Bönninghausen's logic. And as Hahnemann said, in aphorism 145, the healing art will then come near the mathematical sciences. So there you go. We're there. He was right. The polarity analysis relies heavily on the polar rubrics, those with clear opposites, because they are the most objective and reproducible symptoms in the materia medica. So when I spoke about the mind, right, if we focus mostly on the mind, it's not a fact, it's not clear, okay? Dr. Fry has stayed true to Bönninghausen's grading system. And again, he added, like I said, the number 5, which is not that important to us right now. And by focusing on these, the polarity analysis avoids the useless subjective mental symptoms that Hahnemann and Bönninghausen warned against. They even warned against, be careful with the mind symptoms. Polarity difference. We calculate the hits and the sum of rubric grades, then subtract the grades of the opposite poles, and a high polarity difference indicates a remedy that matches the patient's polarity profile without contraindication. So let me see now. I will attempt to share a screen. Let's see if I can do that. Okay. Okay. Now, does this move? Now, I see I'm sharing it, but oh, yes, yes. Do we see it moving? Oh, okay. I am so proud of myself. Okay. So here we go. So I just took random. I took random rubrics here. They all have a polar opposite. Okay. Dr. Fry suggests having at least 6. I read somewhere else it could be 5, but the more polarity, the better. And how does this work? So if we look here at hits, right? We have here how many rubrics? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here's the hits. These all have 7. But here, when we come to our Senecum, there's 6 hits because there's no double vision that is here. Now, by the way, when it's blank, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily not in the proving. If you still think it's arsenicum, you should go into the proving. And I mean, not a modern materia medica. I mean, go into the chronic diseases, because arsenicum is in the chronic diseases. It's not a materia medica pura. It's an antipsoric. So go into the chronic diseases and search in the section on vision. Okay, so that's hits. Then we have sums. What is sums? The sums is when we add all of these numbers up, but subtract the polar opposites. So we would subtract, we would add all these up, and then we would subtract 3. No, we would subtract 6, and we would come up with the number 15. Okay, so Fry says that if you have so many polarities and then you have a very high polarity difference, most likely, and I'm saying most likely, do not think that this first remedy that comes up will always be the remedy. You have to do your work. You have to go into the provings. You must spend the time. And okay, so that's how those, that's hits, sums, and polarity, the polarity difference. Now, if you see something that has a negative polarity, or here we have a 0, here we have a 0, let's find a negative. Here's -2, -3. Most likely, it's not the remedy, okay? Now, what about these gray lines here? These gray lines show a contraindication. So let's look at pulsatilla. I have here, I took thirst. Pulsatilla is known for being thirstless, okay? But it's also does have thirst. But it's most of the time, pulsatilla is not thirsty. So in regular repertories, you won't see this contra. It will just give you an indication that it's one of the remedies that you can select. But when you, just if you can mute whoever is not muted, but when you use this polarity analysis, you will see that it is so accurate that if somebody says they are thirsty, they are so thirsty, but a change from the norm, not their everyday thirsty. Somebody has regular thirst, all of a sudden has COVID, and now they're extremely thirsty. That is an indication to take that rubric, not because they're thirsty in their everyday life. And most likely, pulsatilla will not be the remedy. And now in most repertoires, you won't see this. This will be one of the options, and many times we'll give it, especially if if the person is sad or crying or whatever, we'll decide to give pulsatilla, or they have green coryza, we'll give pulsatilla. This is really something, these contraindications are very, very important to keep in mind. Okay. So let's see where we are going from here. Okay, I spoke about the contraindications. Okay, so, and by the way, Dr. Fry has that list. He has, it's a checklist for ADHD. You can see here. I don't use this often. I take a case the way Hahnemann taught us to take a case. Dr. Fry says that we should use these checklists. I think his repertory is so fantastic, and even to take it as Hahnemann taught is really the best way. But sometimes there is a need, right, when we're not clear about something. And if you want for ADD and ADHD, we take all these, and these are all polarities. And his success rate is at 80% and higher. So that's something that we want, and that's why we're here today, because we want to learn about how to improve and have better success with all our cases. So I want to show you another example here on the polarity analysis. It's not mine yet. We'll get to my cases in a moment, but I'd like to get to, I hope you're all familiar. If not, I can remind you. In the Materia Medica Pura, Hahnemann gives only 2 examples of cases. He didn't give a lot of cases, and there's a reason why he didn't do that. Let me just find this case. The reason why he didn't do it is he didn't want people to think that if he gives he shows which remedy he gave for this case and that case, we won't do the work, and we'll automatically give a remedy without thinking and without doing the work. And as we know, we have to individualize every single case. So in the Materia Medica Pura here, he has a case of the washerwoman case, and I believe it's on page 22. It is page 20, 20. Page 20. And he describes a woman who has pain in the pit of her stomach, and it hurts when any move that she makes, but especially a false move. Okay, so we can add here movement false. Okay, but if you notice here, there are three rubrics. I was going to mention this later on, but I'll mention it now, that Dr. Fry says that small rubrics should be avoided because it limits you. It limits you. You'll only look at these first two. You may not even look at this, which you should anyway. I'll explain soon why, even though it's in gray. But I'm going to remove this, right? We have all these remedies here. So this washerwoman also complained that she feels better when she's resting and she's not moving at all. And she feels much worse when she's eating. Now there is something else that he mentions for those of you who are familiar, and I didn't include it on purpose, but I will include it now, and that is she became very irritable, right? So, right, we know that these are irritable remedies. But if I take it away, just look at these remedies. I'm going to take this away, the irritability. So I'm not using the mind. And look at these. Just by using the facts. She says she became more irritable. I don't know, maybe she's irritable all the time, maybe something happened, we don't know. Even if we do not include the mind symptom, the remedy that he gave was bryonia. Now, if you look in the Materia Medica, under Pura, because it's not in the chronic diseases, if you look in the Materia Medica Pura, you will see that movement worse is the genius of the remedy, but nowhere there was it in the pit of the stomach, that with each movement, it hurt the pit of the stomach. It's not there. So we can take pieces and recombine, take it apart, recombine, and the remedy still works. It still works, even though it's not found exactly in the pit of her stomach, but movement worse brings you to the genius of the remedy, which is bryonia. Okay. So now I was going to read to you the whole thing, and which was going to take up a lot of time, but I will not do that. So maybe this will not be a full 2 hours. So now I want to share with you my own cases. Okay. Okay, so we're going to begin with this one. And thank you, Tikva, you helped me with this one. All right, so this is a female age 92 who had a scratch on her arm, and the scratch grew into an ulcer, and it started to get bigger and bigger, and it had like a blue circle around it. And besides that, the only thing that was a fact, right, it was on her arm. I didn't take arm here. I can take arm. It was on the forearm. But look how many remedies. There's 111 remedies here. And if you know that in the polarity analysis, there's only 125 remedies. So this basically covers almost every remedy. So there's no reason for me to take forearm. There is really no reason. Now, but the other thing that is very important was a modality of every time she wet or she showered, that part, the ulcer got much, much worse. So I only took these two rubrics. And these are all the symptoms that came up. And these all have the hits, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 remedies, and then the rest don't cover. So I started with these 9, and I looked first at what they are, which ones are the possibilities. I looked in the materia medica and in the also the chronic diseases. And then I came to manganon. I looked here, and what did I see? I'm gonna just close this for a moment and go back. What did I find? And this is in the chronic diseases, by the way, because this is an antipsoric remedy. If you don't know which ones are antipsoric, I can share that with you in a moment. Sorry about this. A little unorganized. Here it is. Look what I found. Now, this is in the chronic diseases, line 369. From a small scratch on the proximal joint on the little finger, there arises a malignant ulcer with a blue border and stinging pains, especially at night. Now, it didn't say about the, about the washing, and it was definitely not on the forearm, it was on the little finger. But do you see how I was able to take a pod and recombine and so easily come up with the remedy? Was right there. It's right there on the first page. It's incredible. And it was the first time I ever used that remedy, and it worked. It was incredible to see how it worked. Okay, so let's continue with more cases. The next case will be, all right, we'll do a case of trigeminal nerve pain. Okay, female, age 38, married with 3 kids, left-sided nerve pain. She says, feels like someone exposed my jaw and stabbed it. Pain into the eye and ear. Had dental work done 1 week prior. Hot and cold aggravates. Opening jaw wide aggravates, and chewing aggravates. Now, she had the jaw, she was she had the dental work. I didn't think it was so important about opening the mouth wide. I did not take that. Let's see what I did take here. I took food and drink warm things worse, face, cheekbone, food and drink cold things worse, and side left in general. I just want to explain about left taking the sides in general. Be very careful. Most of the time, I never take it. Let's see if I remove it. Even here, I remove it. It's fine. Be very, very careful. A lot of times people tell you, it's mostly my left leg. It's mostly my left head. But they have a little bit on the right, or they have something else in concomitant on the right. There's something else going on. And then it will hide from you. It'll give you a contraindication. Try not to use it unless it's really, it's really acute and it's necessary for the case. Most chronics, you do not need it, usually. So this is what comes up. We have contraindications here for food and drink cold worse, because these are better. So let's see. So let's say bryonia, or let's look at Spigelia. Why? Because that's a left-sided, we know that that's very left-sided, right? So here, food and drink, warm, worse is a 1. Better, meaning warm things make the person feel better, it's a 3. And in other repertoire, you won't see this because they both actually apply. Sometimes, it could be Spigelia, but it's most likely not going to be the remedy. So this is very interesting. So I did my research, I looked at all of these, and then in the chronic diseases, because this remedy that I was looking for is an antipsoric, look what we get. Oh, she had other chronic problems, migraine, sinusitis. But anyway, in the chronic diseases, line 389, drawing toothache when hot or cold things are taken into the mouth. Mo, what is the remedy? First, I did give Spigelia, I see, and it was not a good remedy for her. What was the remedy? Sepia. She took Sepia 30C, then we went on to Q1, 2, and 3 before it actually resolved. So that was a really nice case. Okay, moving on. We have here, what is this? No, this we did, okay. Don't want to do this one yet. I want to wait for that one till the end. We did the washerwoman here. We did this. Okay, here's a case of a woman with uncontrollable sneezing. When she wakes up in the morning, she's 55 years old, married with adult children, and she is a banker. The longer she sleeps, the longer she stays in bed, the more she sneezes in the morning. So meaning if she sleeps 5 hours or 4 hours, she doesn't sneeze as much. But if she gets 8 hours of sleep, she wakes up in the morning sneezing more. So the more she's still in bed, she sneezes. She sneezes mostly in the mornings, and she has an itchy, peppery feeling in the nose. And when she enters a cold room, she immediately begins to sneeze. She wakes up 1 to 2 times a night to use the restroom. Okay, let's see. After I gave her remedy, she said that she slept better than she has in 20 years. For 1 month, she didn't even wake up to use the restroom. Okay, she returned a year later for menopausal problems. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Is that a question? Okay. So let's see what we did here. I took okay, if we can just put them on mute. Thank you. Okay, so I took no sneezing, sleep prolonged after worse, while after waking up worse, and cold entering a cold environment worse. Now,
It's better call Dr. Sanjay and then tell him, sir.
sorry.
Dr. Sanjay Patnagar, please mute yourself.
No, that's what, if somebody has a number, they can call him.
So we can see here that the first 6 remedies covers everything. Of course, remember what I said, just because this doesn't cover doesn't mean that this is not one of the remedies. You have to do your work, okay? I didn't add any mind symptoms here, right? I can tell you that this woman came to me and was crying the minute she came in to the second she left. She had
Ma'am, can you remove Dr. Sanjay and then later on he can rejoin again, please? Can you
So-
please remove Dr. Sanjay, please?
So I'm gonna continue. I hope you can hear me. So like I said, I didn't add.
No,
the
we
fact
can't
that
hear
she
you,
was
ma'am. He is
crying.
talking too loud.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Please, if you have an opportunity to delete him, you can do it, madam.
Please wait, please wait. We will do.
Tikva, are you able to mute Sanjeev on your,
Yes, please.
I mean, Davera,
Yeah,
are you able to mute Sanjeev?
I can.
Delete
I
him
don't think I can.
or delete it or remove him?
Let me- Okay, I don't hear anyone speaking. Now. That's fine. Okay, so like I said, I didn't use the mind rubrics, and she was crying, and she was very sweet, and she was, you know, the pulsatilla type, right? So she did get pulsatilla, but I didn't need to add that. And look, it's right there. It's right there in front of, comes right up, and it was a beautiful case. And like I said she's never slept so well in her life, and she came back a year later for menopausal symptoms, and she got sepia later on, which also helped her immensely. So let's continue with our cases. Okay. We have a case here of pain in the uterus. Okay, this is a female, age 42, married with one child. I observed that she was coughing while she was, and she didn't come for this, but my observation, I always make a note of what I notice and what I see. She was coughing, she was blowing her nose, she was spitting out phlegm into tissues the entire 2 hours that I met with her for 2 hours. Anyway, her main complaint was that she had suffered from many miscarriages, and she had met a massage therapist who told her that she thinks she's a pelvic floor specialist who massages the whole uterus and the abdominal area. And she told her she thinks her uterus is out of place, and she'll massage it, and then she'll be able to, God willing, have more children. Anyway, after this massage, she had pain, severe pain in her uterus for 6 months. So she had severe pain while she was standing. And while she was standing, yes, she also had Hashimoto's, thyroid problems. She wasn't getting her periods regularly. And she had a wart near her genitals. This woman does not exercise, never liked it, has itchy rash on her right foot for 2 years, and mind symptoms. She suffers from depression and anxiety. All right, so let's see. I took uterus, that's the location. Sexual, not instinct, I took the wrong, sorry. I took the wrong rubric. So we're going to take sexual, not instinct, but sexual, oh yeah, sexual weakness of sexual power instead, because that is for someone who often has miscarriages, for anyone who doesn't know what this rubric means. I know some of you are already using the polarity analysis. Okay, so here we go. I took all these, and I only have 2, right? I only have 2 polar symptoms. So it's not like it's going to come right up over here. So I did my research. And I found that sepia would be the best remedy for her. Now, I didn't include any mind symptoms. I can tell you that this woman did not have good things to say about her husband at all. At all, and that was a big problem in their life, in her life, her relationship with her husband. Anyway, she got sepia and she's doing fantastic. So that is another success. Let's move on. Okay. This is a case of an 8-year-old female with encopresis, right? Staining in her underwear, involuntary stool. She was also diagnosed with ADHD and high-functioning autism. She has no urging and does not feel the stool coming out. She was taking Normalax. Normalax is something over the counter that is taken for people that have constipation. Although she's not actually constipated, but the gastroenterologist decided that she's constipated and that's what she needs to do. So she took this and she started to get more cavities, a lot of cavities, let's put it that way. She had more cavities, a lot of cavities, and she had occasional nightmares. Okay, so let's go see what I did here. Stool involuntary, teeth hollow decayed, these are cavities. Hypochondria, hysteria. This is a rubric that we use for someone who has behavioral problems. I did take this, which is a mind symptom. She does have behavioral problems, and I'll get into it in a moment. The daughter told me that she likes to move. She doesn't like to sit in one place in school. And I also observed her. It was all through Zoom, by the way. And I noticed that she couldn't sit quietly. She was constantly moving and obviously hyperactive. And I took talking, speaking worse, which is one of the rubrics that's used a lot in ADD, ADHD, children with developmental problems. She has a delay in speech. She would take, not speech per se, but she would take words and kind of rearrange them and make up her own sentences that don't really make sense. Anyway, so this is all I took. And, you know, Rustat has a lot of hyperactivity, and Veratrum looked very interesting to me. Sulfur looked interesting to me. And then, and of course, sepia, a lot of movement. And then I come across Hyos, right? So I'm looking at Hyos, and I asked the mother to send me a picture of the child. She sent me a picture of the child, and there was this certain look that I couldn't see through Zoom that I saw in the picture. There's a look in the eye of someone who's just like looking for trouble, somebody who's a little bit wild. And every time the mother described her, she said she is wild. She likes to play with boys. She likes to be rough, but she doesn't like to be center of attention, because I was thinking maybe sulfur. Veratrum is also similar to sulfur, that they like to be the center of attention, but she's not like that. She'll go to another room and cause a lot of problems, but she'll be there alone and cause all these problems. She doesn't want to be in front of everybody and and be the center of attention. Anyway, so I'm looking at Hyos, and I see this look in her eyes after the mom sent me a picture. And I asked her, does your daughter do anything that is sexually inappropriate? And the mother said, well, now that you're asking, yeah, there's a few things that she does, and she explained to me certain things that she did. And without even taking, and here I could take sexual instinct strong, right? And then it makes it, well, didn't even change it much, actually. I thought it would bring it up. It didn't even change anything about it. But anyway, that was the remedy. I gave her Hyos, and it's incredible. It's incredible. Her behavior has improved. Her underwear is clean, and she is taking a medicine called Attent for ADHD, and I'm trying to convince the mother to work with me and to continue, because she sees the problem. She doesn't understand that I can help her overall. She would like to keep her on the medication. I would like to get her off, but hopefully she will continue treatment. So who knows? Okay, let's continue. Okay, here's a case of chronic sinusitis with difficulty hearing, because he's always stuffed. It's difficult for him to hear. He's 40 years old. He's married with children. He's a computer programmer. He had surgery a year earlier before he came to me for his sinuses. He complains of back pains that he says is better after exercising. He has sneezing fits at times. His ears feel plugged, difficulty hearing. He hears sounds, but he can't figure out what the words are. And he himself has difficulty speaking for a long time because of what he hears, because of the stuffed ears, the plugged ears. He has pressure in the face. He clears his throat often. He has a tendency to be overweight if he's not careful. He desires to eat donuts and pastries. He loves the winter. He is constipated. He also takes this Normalax twice a day, has ineffectual urging. Drinking warm makes his sinuses feel better. Hot showers make him feel better. Warm compresses ameliorate. Change in weather is worse. I didn't take this. I said I didn't take it too seriously. I don't remember why, but I did not take, I kind of put them on the witness stand. I ask and I ask until I'm clear that it's an important symptom. He says pressing on the face makes it worse. Standing on his feet for too long hurts the balls of his heels and feet. Actually, I have to ask him about that. He has never mentioned it since he started homeopathic treatment. I will follow up with that. But okay, so let's look at the rubrics. I took hearing difficult, talking and speaking worse, urging to stool ineffectual. Notice there's no strings, there's no complete full rubrics. I wanted to show you. Okay, I'll show this after I stop sharing the screen about how the layout looks besides in the polarity analysis. I took cheekbones, nose internal, external pressure worse, warm becoming better, tendency to take cold because he gets colds often, and standing worse. Okay, so I'm looking at all these. Now again, I didn't take any mind symptoms. It turns out that this person, he fights a lot with his wife. She is the controlling one in the house, and he basically doesn't answer back too much. And when he does, he explodes. So what did I give him? It's right here. Here we go. Staphylococcus aureus. You got Staphylococcus aureus. Look, I didn't take any mind, nothing, no mind symptoms. It's right here. It's all right here. He's doing great. Let's continue. Okay, I think I'm coming up to the last one. Yeah. Okay, the last one here. And this is a case of COVID. Okay, a female, age 55, and it began with stomach cramps and a scratchy voice, and then it became a hoarse voice, difficulty breathing, congestion in the face, coughing causes throat to feel scratchy, cough with expectoration that does not come up, talking makes breathing, the breathing worse, cough worse in the evening and night. Wait, I'm sorry, cough worse in the evening and at night, and when she falls asleep, she's fine. Like it doesn't bother her while she's sleeping. Her throat feels dry. Cold air is worse. She keeps repeating cold air, the cold air. It's cold here, the cold air. She lost her no appetite. Drinking hot and cold soothes both. Okay, so let's see. So here are all the remedies. Okay. And breathing in cold air really is the thing that she keeps repeating over and over again. So I was looking at these remedies, and she has a hoarse voice. And even though this only has a 1, and it worked in the past, I gave her phosphorus. But it didn't work. Okay. So I moved on. And so I looked at sepia. Now, sepia in the past also worked for hip problems and all kinds of other things. So of course I gave her sepia, and it did not work. So now I'm breaking my head. I'm saying, what am I going to give her? And here we go. I look at hep. And I'm thinking, should I give her Hepar Sulf? And I was about to give it to her, but I didn't. I didn't because I didn't think there wasn't enough. I wasn't comfortable enough. So let me see if I took here what I found. Yes. So I looked in, actually in herring. I looked under Rumex, which is not in, it's not one of the 125. There's quite a few remedies that are not part of the 125. I mean, we don't have hypericum. We don't have the, of course, now I can't think of it, but there's a lot of remedies that are important that we do not have. And one of them is the Rumex. We don't have it. But I do remember learning about it. So I looked it up. And what did I find? In herring, look at this, so interesting. Aphonia after exposure to cold, reflex aphonia due to infiltration of tubercle in apex of left lung, okay. Tenacious mucus in throat or larynx, consistent desire to hawk phlegm. Here we go. Without succeeding, and worse in cold air. This does have worse at night, but it didn't affect in this case. Constant cough and desire to raise it, but without relief. Scraping in the throat, coughing and hawking, scraping in the throat. So every time she coughed, it caused her throat to become scratchy. I gave her this remedy, and I made a note for myself, if not this, then I'll give her the Hepar Sulf. It worked like magic. So sometimes it happens because not every repertory is 100%, meaning we are lacking some really, really good remedies that are not here. Gelsemium, for example, it's not here. So sometimes we have to look outside of these 125 remedies. So that's important. Okay, so now let me go back. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Okay. Here we are. I'd like you to go, yes, please put on the next, where it says technical corrections or something, the next slide. Continue. Oh, yeah, refining. Yeah, the refining. Right there. They're right there. Okay. So there's a couple of things that are important to know here about the polarity analysis. So the red, there's yellow, there's green, there's red rubrics. The red rubrics, Dr. Fry says not to use them. He says not to use them at all, or use them cautiously. I do use them sometimes. Sometimes it's important, but cautiously. Play around with it. Put it in, take it out. Play around with it. You don't always need it. Like I said before, avoid very small rubrics. If there's a rubric with 3 remedies, don't use it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because you may miss something because of it. Okay, this is important to note if you have a pen and paper. There's a whole section of emotions worse. And a lot of them say in these rubrics, it says anger. Emotions, anger, with fear, fright, worse. All that whole section, it does not mean anger. It means the word anger, actually, because of the translation, because don't forget that this is all translated from the original German. So it actually means that they're annoyed, or they're troubled, or they're frustrated, or they're worried. They're not angry. So all those rubrics are not anger. It says anger, but it's not anger. If you want a rubric that's anger, then you use the rubric, the straight rubric that's not under emotions worse, but it's just anger, irritability, and something else. That one is used for anger. So that's important to know. Okay, if you look, and this is not an important rubric, but you should still know, and you don't even need to use it. But there is a rubric called after midnight worse, after midnight better, before midnight better, after midnight worse. They're mixed up. So the better is the worse, and the worse is the better. But it's not important. It's not even important to use. Why? You could use night worse. Okay? There's no reason to use before midnight. You could use evening. They're mixed up. And I actually personally emailed Dr. Fry. He no longer responds because he retired. And I asked him, why don't you fix this? And he said, it's not worth it for me. It's not a polarity rubric. And he uses those checklists. That's how he takes the cases. I don't take the cases that way. That's not how I was taught by my teacher, Oren Omri. He explained to me, take just the way it is. Just the way Hahnemann taught, but do use the polarity when you need it. So know that those are, if you do choose to use it, they're mixed up. There's lying positions, okay? If you go under lying, L-Y-I-N-G, I should probably share here, but there's lying after better or lying after worse. That means immediately, like within a few seconds or a few moments or a couple of minutes, the person feels relief or they have feel an aggravation. That's what it means. Or lying in bed. Lying in bed means that the person feels fine, but after 3-4 hours of laying in bed, that's when their symptoms begin to to occur. So these are rubrics that are important to know, because if you don't understand them, it's very, very difficult to use this very simple repertory, because it is simple. Okay. So let's move on to the next screen. And we're coming closer to our conclusion. And I'm saying we conclude with the requirement for pure materials and deep study of the original sources. And this is what Hahnemann tells us in aphorism 145. Of a truth, it is only by a very considerable store of medicines accurately known in respect of their pure effects that we can be placed in a position to discover a homeopathic remedy, a suitable artificial morbific analog for each of the infinitely numerous morbid states in nature for every malady in the world. Even with a tool as brilliant as the therapeutic pocketbook or the polarity analysis, the work of the homeopath is not finished. We always return to do the work. And we see that in aphorism 148, where he says, but this laborious search for and selection of the homeopathic remedy must be suitable in every respect to each morbid state, is an operation which, notwithstanding all the admirable aids for facilitating it, still demands the study of the original sources themselves, and at the same time, a great amount of circumspection and serious deliberation, which have their best reward in the consciousness of having faithfully discharged our duty. How could this solemn, serious work, which alone can enable us to practice the art of healing in a perfection that is possible, be expected of the new-fashioned homeopaths, who content themselves the repertories which they use only for the purpose of picking out a medicine at random? This is not what we want to do. We don't want to do it at random. We want it to be easy. We want it to be accurate. This is also what I wanted to show you. This is a book by Gary Weaver, and inside, this is also the original, from the original German translation of the therapeutic pocketbook, and you see how there's sections, just modalities, aggravations, amelioration. There's sections for the body parts, the head, the eyes, the nose, the lips, body parts, simple, no strings of long sentences. It doesn't exist here. It's very, very, very simple to use. So let's move on to the last slide, and then I'll take questions if you have, and I hope I can answer them. So there's much more to learn, right, to use the polarity analysis. And if you enjoyed this presentation and you would like to learn more, my teacher Oren, as I mentioned before, Oren Omri and I are putting together a digital course for working homeopaths who want a more simple way of approaching cases, increasing their success rate. And we will also be offering live clinical experience for those interested. So if you are, please send me an email. And here's my email, davera.bareli@gmail.com. And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. We finished a little bit early, half hour, so we have time for questions. The name of the book is Bönninghausen's Therapeutic Pocketbook. Wait, can we see it? Let me take off this, I put this lovely background. Will I be, can I figure how to take this off? No, I cannot. If you could take my background for me, it's okay. Thank you. Yes, yeah, I see. And Tikva, you mentioned that the polarity analysis is free, and which is another reason, besides that it's simple and accurate, it's free. It's free. We don't need to buy anything, and it's amazing. Yes, absolutely. Let me see what else is here in the chat. I hope there will be a recording. I'm not sure. I believe so. False movement. Somebody asked what's a false movement. False movement is like a step, like a misstep. Then not regular movement, but they take a bad step and they kind of like almost fall. That's what a false movement means here. I'm not sure what Similex does. It says, I'm not familiar with it at all. Somebody mentioned that repertory. I don't know. Yes, Q means LM potencies. That's the right way of saying it. LM is not the correct way. It's actually Q potencies, as Tikva mentioned. What was the rubric in the ADHD girl with the sexual instinct? I haven't come across it before. Which rubric was it that I used I think just speaking worse. I didn't use anything else besides the speaking worse. Oh, I took hysteria. Also, I did take, but I don't believe that's a
No,
polarity.
I think it was a rubric that began with the word sexual.
Yes, it said sexual instinct high, but then I didn't need to. But when I took it, it's not part of the ADHD at all. I said if I take that, I thought it would bring HIOS.
I couldn't find that actual rubric in my software.
Yeah, sexual instinct high.
I looked in my software and I couldn't find it.
It's there. I showed you on the polarity analysis.
What rep were you using?
This whole discussion is only about the polarity analysis.
Right, not a rep.
That's the repertory, and it's free. You can download it free. That's the repertory that I taught. Yeah, that was the whole webinar about the polarity analysis and why. And that's why I gave the history of why it's so accurate. Why this polarity analysis.
I missed the first 15 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay. Whether we can include thermal states? Yes, of course we can include thermal states. For sure, these are modalities and it's very important to add those. Like I said, the name of the book that I showed you is called Bönninghausen's Therapeutic Pocketbook, and it's by Gary Weaver and Vladimir Polony. It's basically the therapeutic pocketbook repertory in a book form right there. I love to use it on days that I do not use the computer. Let me see. Yes, it's free. I didn't understand in case if patient is thirstless, do you take thirstless if the person is thirstless? Meaning if it's a change, if like for me, for example, I'm never thirsty, right? So if someone's taking my case about something, they're not going to take thirstless because I'm never thirsty. But if I get sick with COVID and I become very thirsty, obviously you take thirst, and also with the opposite. Yeah, it's not always free in some places. I don't know. I think in India it's free. In Israel it's free. In America it's free, I believe, also because I use it when I'm in the States. Not only in India. Someone said in India only. No. And I hope it remains free. How much importance do you give for green, yellow, and red rubrics? So red the least, and green the most, and polarity the most. So green and yellow to use, and polarity, but don't force it. Don't force the polarities, right? Don't, I mean, you could do the checklist if that works for you. I find it, first of all, very boring to take a case that way. It's very robotic and very, I don't like it. I don't feel like I get to know the person. I like the regular way of taking a case, but you could use it that way if you'd like. Is it necessary to take 5 to 6 green high-grade rubrics? No, you could take 2 or 3, and that's fine, green and yellow. But if you're using the polarity and you want to use the polarity, then you need to have 5, 6 or more polarity rubrics. Do I suggest any materials and books you suggest to understand the meaning of the rubrics? That's a very good question. Yeah, and that's going to be explained in the course, in the digital course. Another way, and if you don't want to do that, you can in George Demetriadis's TBR2 repertory, you can find a lot of the meanings there. Do you suggest any materials? Okay. Some rubrics, like worse from aggravation, are not available in polarity analysis. And what else to do? Like if the modality is in scarcity and the only symptom in the case is, I don't understand the question. We have a whole section of aggravations and ameliorations. So whatever is there, that is what Bönninghausen found to be the most important. And other things, if it's not there, it's not there. I have a case of somebody who carrying heavy book bag on her back makes her feel better. I don't have that rubric. I'm working around it. Or I'll search in complete dynamics, and it's not there either, by the way. I did search there. Right now, I only use the polarity analysis, and if I need to search for one particular thing, I'll look in the complete dynamics. I like the point you said about the remedy being penalized. That's good. Can you please expand on taking only facts? You mentioned a book by Gary Weaver. What is the name of the book? Okay, I said that. Yes, facts, meaning it's a fact that from sitting to standing, the person's hip hurts. It's a fact. Every time she stands up from a sitting position or from a lying position from the bed, there's pain. It's a fact. We know that. Things, they say the mind, if you go too deep into the mind is a minefield. It's not a fact. It's what's happening at that time, or a book that he read, or a thought that he thought, or a movie that he saw. Don't go too deep into that. It is important to understand the person and who you're treating. Hahnemann says, know who this person is. Understand them. But we want to look at facts. Facts are modalities. Showering, wetting the skin makes it worse, makes it better. Winter, cold air. Any of these modalities are facts. It's not something they have to think about. Okay. Which software is this? This is the polarity analysis. How many maximum rubrics can we take? You know, I don't even really know. I've heard 10. More than that is probably too much and not necessary. Have I taken more? Yes, sometimes. But remember, we don't want to make it into like a soup. We don't want to throw everything in there. No, no, no. We want the concentrated, the tincture. We want the tincture. We want the facts and the most important things and the complete symptoms. That's the most important thing. Are there any cases of diabetes and their outcomes in patients from, I'm sure there are about diabetes. I don't have one right now to share. Can you please explain more about the course, topics covered, duration, online recording? I don't have the information yet. We're still working on it. It won't be ready for about another 6 months, but if you send me if you email me, I will, once it's ready, I will send it to you. Name of the book for the meaning of the rubric. So it's not a book, but it's George Demetriadis's TBR2 repertory. You have to purchase that. It's a repertory and it is just as good as the polarity analysis. However, it does not have the contraindications. And the contraindications really is like, makes all the difference in the world. How should a practitioner handle a highlighted symptom such as food craving of aggravation when the corresponding rubric is not available? Well, it usually is available, but you just reminded me of something that I didn't say for some reason, and this is very important. So if you have a rubric of aggravates of 4, and then you have a grading of 1 better, then it's obvious. But if you have something that's close, you have a 3 and a 4, that's going to give you a contraindication. But don't disregard that remedy. Go into the materia medica, go into the chronic diseases, look it up. It may be the remedy, even though it's gray and is a contraindication, but it's between a 3 and 4. It's not a 4 and a 1. That, you know, is like almost guaranteed it's not the remedy. If a remedy is contraindicated and present in gray color, should we have to completely avoid the remedy, or is it okay to consider it as a choice? Like I said, you can consider it, especially if it's like a 3 and 4. If it's a 1 and 4, usually not, but do your research, right? What did Hahnemann say? Nothing is automatic. This is hard work, meaning to find the remedy, to do the research in the materia medica. That's part of it, right? To check what's there in chronic diseases or poorer, can one directly search? Oh, in the Similex, you can search in it? Okay, I'm gonna look into it. I don't know. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it's from the original, which line is it? Is it from Yar? Is it directly from Bönninghausen? I don't know. Like I said in the beginning, I'm like this. I don't look left, I don't look right. I just follow Hahnemann and Bönninghausen. And like I said, I am not practicing so long that I should have such good results. And why is it? It's only because I'm literally following what they said. That's it. Nothing else. I didn't create my own method, my own anything. And I don't follow, the modern homeopaths. This is what I stick with. I see it works. That's it. I think we're done. And I hope you enjoyed. I did. Wishing everybody happy holidays, happy New Year, and peace. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Davera.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. I hope you learned something new today.
Absolutely. Quite a few
Thank
things.
you, ma'am.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to tell you something, if I can.
Mhm.
What I really loved was what was the point that was made, that not to take the mind symptoms as overriding everything, right? And that really was great.
But do keep it in mind.
Absolutely.
Because once you see those remedies and they're right there, you're like, oh, I knew she was a pulsatilla from the beginning. And you see it right there.
That's right. The problem is when people look at the mind symptoms and you're looking at somebody else and your interpretation, right? It's your interpretation, which may not be correct. So if you're only taking into account your perception of what that person's mental, emotional, perceptual is all about, and that's the only thing that's important.
So thank you. So that's exactly what I should have said. Somebody asked me, what do you mean by facts? And that's exactly what I should have said, because that's not factual. But standing up from a chair and it hurts, it's a fact. We know it. So that's...
You actually did say it, Davera.
Oh, okay. Maybe in different words. All right.
But
somebody raised their hand here. I don't know how to do that, what to answer. Somebody wants to ask something. Okay. Yes. Yes, go ahead, ask. Oh, okay. So any other questions? Okay, so it was a pleasure, and have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye. Happy New Year.